Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Tinker O'Toole again here, another video. Today we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration on splitting around using wedges. First of all, we've got this really old wedge I picked up at a garage sale. It's made in Australia by a company called Trojan. You can just read it there, so needs to take them off with the angle grinder and clean that all up. A little bit dangerous like that, plus it yeah, so it's been around a long time. It actually had a broken part on here and I welded it all up. So this is not really to start the splitting, this is to put in when you've used one of the smaller ones. Now I've got an assortment of them and two of them that I modified. This is what you get from Cyclone. So it's called Cyclone Splitting Wedge, made in Australia, but it's got a very wide angle and you need a pretty big crack in the timber to fit that in, otherwise it'll just bounce off. So what I did, I brought another one and I made it to a very thin wedge, so that works really good now. So what we've done is made it very thin, got rid of that really big 90-degree angle and made it thinner too, so it's thinner. Then we've actually got another one that it's only about just over 10 degrees. This is very long and thin and very sharp on the edge, and normally what you do with this is put it in a crack. Then I modified another one, a smaller one. That's another one. Okay, the log that we're going to split 6 days ago on the video, you'd remember I had this log, I just cut it, and within 10 minutes we started to get some sort of crack in. Now what you've got to realise, there's the date there, the 7th of March 2024, and today's the 13th, so it's only 6 days. And if you put a moisture meter on there, on the outside that's dry, but it started cracking there. This was generally the centre of the tree, but there was more growth. There's been more growth on this side for some reason. Don't know why. You can see that it's a lot thinner there. But you can see the cracks start from here and just go out. So it's cracked everywhere. We had a couple of days. The last 6 days has been in excess of 30 degrees centigrade, up to about 38. And as soon as you get a couple of hot days like that, 1 week will split that. Whereas if you were to cut the timber in winter time, no, it's not going to crack like that. It's going to take months and months and months in cold weather. But in hot weather, one thing that you'll find out about when timber shrinks, it shrinks from the outside to the inside, because if I was to cut this in half, it would probably still be wet on the inside. So it takes quite a while to do that. Now, it's got enough cracks in it to either split with a splitting axe or a maul, or to put a wedge in there. So you could look at a larger one. There's a larger one there. That'll probably just go in. We could try that one to start the splitting. Now, normally with a log this size, this log's only about 1 foot in diameter, you normally don't use splitting wedges unless it was all knotted. Normally you would use a splitting wedge if something's about 2 foot diameter or even bigger, and you will start the splitting process if it becomes too difficult to split, meaning that it probably doesn't have many cracks. You need to get cracks in it for it to split easier. So that's going in now, and that's starting to split. Interesting when you look in there and you look at all the fibres. There's fibres everywhere. Now that's why you have that big old one, because it's much wider, so you can just drop it in like that and as you can see, it'll split it open. So that was only, I didn't even have to bring out a big sledgehammer. This is probably only a few kilos. If you had something bigger, yes, you'd have to bring out the big sledgehammer. So that's after 6 days. I'll just see if we could, there we go. So that was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? That wasn't anything difficult in doing that. So I didn't even, this is the one that I use sometimes to start the process off because it's very, very thin. So yeah, that's what I use a lot. So no point only having 1 or 2 of them, because if they get stuck in the timber, then you're in trouble. So if you looked at the effort of that, we do have another one here, and I brought my splitting axe. Now this was number 2, this was its brother, so I cut this piece off. This was the other side of the log that I cut. It was exactly the same. Moisture was the same, and as you can see, it's split roughly the same. I'll just get rid of these splitting wedges, and I'm going to split this timber. And I'll tell you which is easier, whether it was the splitting wedges. Now, going back many, many years ago, before hydraulic log splitters were commonplace for the average person, that's how it used to be done, with splitting wedges. The average person couldn't afford a hydraulic splitter. They would have been way, way too expensive. They were mainly commercial. So what we're going to do now, we'll just zoom back out a bit. This is my still oxen cough, and I'll just move this a little bit. There's a good split there. So I don't really expect to split this in one hit. It may take about 3 hits. So, but we'll try and get it right there, because that's where the crack is, and we'll see how we go. Pretty close. Doesn't get much closer than that. This timber's hard as a rock. I'll give it a few more shots, and then I'll put a... So it was a lot easier splitting it with the wedges, I can tell you. Got a split happening here. You can see how hard this wood is. That's what I was saying about using the splitting wedges. There's one. Had you let this dried out a bit more, it would have split better. Oh, getting a bit puffed. So you can see that it's not, and this has a total weight of 3.9 kilo. So if you're going to put a small splitting axe on this, and this was bouncing off, imagine what your little, let's just say you had a small fiscus, less than 2 kilos. Yeah, you're going to be here forever. This is probably 14 kilonewtons on the Janker scale. This is ironbark, eucalyptus ironbark. It is hard, very hard. Okay, so the conclusion was that it was a lot easier to split the timber with the splitting wedge because it had the cracks in it, and that other piece of timber with the splitting axe actually took quite a fair bit. And that can happen sometimes. Sometimes you can just split it 2-3 hits, and other times 10-12 hits before it splits. But the timber that I got, if you have a look here, there's actually quite a few logs on the ground, fairly big. Most of that timber that I got was all cut off at the base, like that's cut off at the base, that's cut off at the base. And the ones, I think I ended up getting about a dozen logs, all roughly about the same there. And they're all, I don't know, I cut them about 3 to 4 foot long. This one's about 4 feet in length. And normally, if you was to cut that timber into smaller logs and you left it out to dry in cooler weather, you'd be waiting months and months for it to split really as good as what that did in 6 days. So you could see that that split really well because we had some really hot days, and in hot weather, yeah, it splits a lot quicker. Definitely the moisture inside would have been much higher than the outside, so if it was left for another couple of weeks, it would have even split a little bit easier. But yeah, look, it was just to show you how to use a splitting wedge, and you could see that it works quite well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now.